this year, last couple years watching NFL. As you've been around that game the last 2 years, Kirk, and calling them, does Michael Penix remind you of anybody you've seen at the next level?
Oh, man. You probably would be more dialed in on that than me. I haven't really spent a lot of time thinking about.
Well, our buddy Colin Cowherd, our buddy Cowherd came on here. He's like, he's a bigger Tua, just bigger, stronger Tua, left-handed.
I don't see that. I don't see that.
I think I went with a little stronger armed C.J. Stroud. From a timing, anticipation, accuracy, throws. It seems like every ball that comes out of his hands is a spiral. I don't know if I've seen a duck out of his hand.
And the other thing, I like that one. And the play that he threw the other night when he rolled to his left, which he very rarely does, and much like C.J. Stroud, I mean, if you remember him at Ohio State, the one little criticism, and of course Ohio State fans will criticize anything they can find, the one criticism that they had for him is he didn't get out of the pocket and make plays. And then in the Georgia game, he, of course, showed that ability, and everyone was like, wow, I didn't know he could do that. Mm-hmm. And with Penix, he's so often, the timing is so good and crisp with he and his receivers. You don't see him get out a lot. And that play he made, talk about a Heisman play or a moment, that play to his left, and at the last second, finding that Delp on the back, or who did he find there in the back? Called the tight end. He found him for a touchdown, and I was like, wow. I mean, I know he's accurate, but I didn't know he could get on the run like that. He's locked in on the two receivers, and at the last second, just before he's about to go out of bounds, he finds the third option and threw an absolute perfect strike. So, no, I like that. I like that one. That's a really good comparison.
If you were voting today, where would he stand in your Heisman vote?
We were on a game day call yesterday about the Heisman, and I don't have it right in front of me, but I think we're going to go back and look at it. I remember when Derrick Henry won it, and it was a year where it was much like this year, where if the voting were right now, you could bring up a bunch of different people, and then Derrick Henry got hot at the Iron Bowl, which was the last game of the year, and then in the SEC championship, and he ended up securing the Heisman essentially on the last couple weeks of the season. This year reminds me of that year. It's almost like this guy's in it. Oh, he lost. He's out. Okay, he's done. And I think people react so much to results. I think we're way more reactive, like we are with everything and with social media, that I think in the past, if you go back years and years ago, like in the 90s, early 2000s, guys would have, like Desmond Howard has a catch against Notre Dame week 1, and it was almost like that was his moment, and it just every week it kept building and building and building. And you could go back and look at all these guys that won the Heisman, and they had Peter Warwick, like they have these Heisman moments where you remember them, and Warwick ended up not winning it, but it was just like you have just special plays that stand out. That's why I brought up that play about Penix. Jaden Daniels, to me, is the guy that, if you had to say who's the guy that's a wow factor, but his team's losing games, and of course, nobody likes to vote for a guy that's losing games. J.J. McCarthy has ridiculous numbers, but they've been playing nobody up to this point, and their last few games will get more interesting. So, I feel like it's a wide open race. Michael Penix is, in my opinion, the front runner as we get into the stretch run here, and he's got some big stages still in front of him. So he'll have an opportunity. I'm hoping we go to Corvallis. I think our crew going to be at Oregon State next week. So I know that's an ABC prime game. So you have the Utah game this week. You got Oregon State. You got a rivalry game. You have a Friday night Pac-12 championship. I mean, the script is set. I mean, it's right there. He's one of the front runners, and he's got 4 big opportunities to kind of showcase who he and who his team is.
Going Herbie, Heward, Herbie in back-to-back weeks. I don't know how I feel about that. That's a
Triple
lot.
H. Yeah. Bro, that's Triple H. That's big time. My last question for you, Kurt, you saw them, they being the Huskies against Oregon. You saw them down in the Coliseum. You'll likely see them in Corvallis. Do they have enough defensively? The script is there for Penix, but do they have enough defensively to run this table well enough to get to the college football playoff?
As you know, my biggest concern for them is going to be in Las Vegas. I feel like Oregon, I mean, you could make a case that they are as good as any team in the country. The reason I like Oregon is I like kind of like what Washington has. You got a quarterback that's been through some trials and tribulations and becomes so much better on the back end. And I think if you go back and really study that game in a really tough environment at Husky Stadium, Oregon played really well and ended up missing the kick late. If there's one game that you would be concerned about the defense, it would be matching up against Oregon and against that speed and against Bo Nix. And has it become another one of those games where Penix has got to be hot? And it's almost like in March Madness when a team makes a run and they're really good at three-point shooting and they got to rely on, hitting 38% from the threes, and you got to score 90 points. And it's that kind of potential matchup in game if Oregon and Washington get together, kind of like what they did last week. And it's great when you're delivering, but what if you're not converting on third down? What if, for whatever reason, you don't have it? Can you rely on the defense and finding a different way to win the game? I'm not saying they can't, but I'm just saying that would be like this week against Utah. It'll be interesting to see, how that game goes, and can the defense dig in and make some plays. And, they've had some injuries on that side of the football, but especially on the back end at safety, but they're going to have to at some point make some plays to if they're going to really make a run here and win a Pac-12 championship and get into the playoff.